For me, Cori Bush is a squad member, but she's in a different category for me.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a category that I even would put Cornell West. It's more of a category I would put Nina Turner. There's some bad decisions. I would say these are decisions I don't agree and I vigorously disagree. But to the core, I believe, and I'm going to say this because I don't want people to think RBN's in this. I believe, for example, Nina Turner is a good person. I just think she has a strategy that she believes in that I don't think is a good strategy. Same with Cori Bush. She's made, the decision or the calculation is a better way of saying it. The calculation to, team up with the Democrats and the progressive Democrats in particular and sort of be in and out on certain things, be in and out on certain things, in on certain matters, out on certain matters, which to me has caused her not to cultivate a foundation to sustain the attacks that's going to be coming from her. Like Shama Sawant. You get what I'm saying? Shama Sawant, oh, you guys gonna recall me? She's sitting there damn near eating chicken, as they're saying this there. She's like, what you gonna do? I can have the people with me.
Yeah.
I have all of the people with me. You get what I'm saying? So
I do.
That's sort of my take on Cori Bush and why I wanted to kind of analyze this story. But what is sort of your introductory take on broadly what's going on, and then we'll get into the details.
Well, when I speak, Cori, I always try to be very transparent with everyone. I expect that from others, and I'm going to be transparent myself. I don't know Cori Bush, who started to become the congressperson. I knew before. I met Cori in Ferguson when I was interviewing people in Ferguson. I shared tear gas with Cori Bush. She was out there all the time for years, but not even old Ferguson. When a lot of the cameras went away, Jason Stockley was a horrible cop, and there were about 40 days of protest that were hidden, but people were out in numbers. She was out there. She's been out there. So I started a relationship with Cori long before she became a congressperson. And I say that, and then some people will say, oh, well, you're biased. Well, if she flipped on Palestine tomorrow, I'm flipping on her tomorrow. So let's be clear about that. So, yes, there's a relationship there, but I have my, my morality, and I have what I think, and I try to be true to that. So I actually am probably one of the only guests ever been on this network who doesn't use the phrase the squad. And the reason I don't use the phrase the squad is that I don't want to lump a Cori Bush, who's been steadfast on Free Palestine since day one, has been the first person to say defund the police, if not the only one, the first person to come out with a cop city as far as Congress with an AOC, who has capitulated in the most ridiculous ways over and over and over. I'm not trying to put AOC and Cori Bush in the same bucket. That doesn't mean I agree with everything Cori Bush is saying or done.
Right.
But to me, they're in different buckets. So I think the squad sort of oversimplifies maybe some discussions. And the last thing I'll say, CJ, is that whether someone's behind you, if someone is experiencing racism for taking a position that I agree with, whether it's Stop Cop City, whether it is Free Palestine, I'm going to defend them. They don't need to share my exact politics. They don't need to be an activist like me outside of politics, whether they're in there or not. I am going to defend them because I'm against racism and anybody getting targeted for standing up to AIPAC, for standing up to Israel, for getting those death threats. Those death threats aren't any less real. So I get in trouble a lot because people interpret that as, oh, you think the system's going to save us. No, I don't think the system's going to save us. But I know racism when I see it, and I think you have to defend people for it.
Absolutely. All right, continue. Okay.
I said a lot.
So, yeah, almost damn near everything you said, I agree with. And the reason why, and this is another reason why I wanted to have you on, because when people typically in politics, when we talk about nuance, people typically, when using the word nuance, they want to shield a terrible position that they have or that they want to shield somebody else for. And you are one of the few people when we're talking about nuance, I don't get that feeling like you're literally just trying to give every sort of argument, everybody in the benefit of the doubt, and just to say, until you prove otherwise, I'm not gonna just
I'm
jump
trying to
on.
explain. There are things that are
Yeah,
worth explaining, and I
right.
do think there is a very large gap within the squad that I want to honor. I want to honor someone who steps out. And here's the thing. Most people interpret that person as a congressperson. Can they change within Congress? That's not what I care about. I'm in the business of protest and amplifying. The fact is, when Cori Bush and Rashida Tlaib put this legislation forth for a ceasefire resolution, like the day after October 7th or whatever, put that forward, there were only 13 co-sponsors. Now we're up to 66. Okay? Now that's grown. That means something, not that in Congress, but it means something culturally. And first and foremost, I give credit to the people in the street who are protesting, who opened those doors. But I also have to give credit for those who are stepping out, getting death threats daily, having put AIPAC money put behind them. I think you could honor that and say we're fighting in a free Palestine, because I promise you this: the kids getting murdered in Palestine right now don't give a shit about your ideology or your politics, you're liberal or leftist or whatever. They want the next bomb to stop dropping. That's what they want. So I want to honor that. They want the end of an occupation. She's not just saying ceasefire, she's saying end the occupation. So I think that's important, to not take our eye off the prize based on our politics, that people are being genocidal, people are being murdered, and we want to stop the murder. I don't want to get too 3,000 feet above the ground to forget that point.
No, that's a great point, and none of that I disagree. I just want to add, this is why, for me, it's frustrating. For me, it's frustrating with people like Nina Turner and Cori Bush, because it feels like they're in the right place, but just one tweak will turn on the faucet of support to where they can withstand stuff like what should happen to her in Ohio, and what's happening to Cori. This is not the end. This is not the beginning or the end for Cori Bush. You can't take and it's my opinion that this is completely tied to her stance on Palestine. This is completely tied to that.
Third rail.
Yeah, because these aren't, none of this stuff is new. That's the reason why she's different. That's the reason why I say she's different, because there's some squad members. Oh, now everybody's now on ceasefire.
Yeah.
Now that it's cool to have the hashtag.
Yeah.
But Cori Bush was on ceasefire, and Rashida Tlaib, for that matter, was on ceasefire from day one. They was on get out occupation. It's from day one. So I give them that respect. But on the same note, this is the reason why, to me, it's frustrating, because when they choose not to have such a strong backbone on other issues, that invites a shaky foundation. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't allow, that's a better way of saying it. It's like trying to build on a foundation where the cement is not dry yet. That's what I mean. It's like it's not complete, and it's always soft, because you sometimes are like this and you're vigorously on it, and sometimes you're not. It's some people's interpretation. Is my interpretation too. So, but anyway, we've been talking. Let's get to the video, because there's a couple of videos I want to show. We got about another 30 minutes or so, 25 minutes before Chuck has to take off. And we're trying to do our stream shorter. That's why you only see 3 topics, and they're really just two, and they're just intertwined. and we're trying to just keep these more 90 minutes. So that's what I'm trying to do also today. And Chuck will be with us for about 60 of those 90 minutes. But let's get back to the last part of this video.
First and foremost,
and this is her. Actually, we got time to listen to the to most of it. So let's listen to it from beginning, and then we'll get into some other content here.
First and foremost, I hold myself, my campaign, and my position to the highest levels of integrity. I also believe in transparency, which is why I can confirm that the Department of Justice is reviewing my campaign spending on security services. We are fully cooperating with this investigation, and I would like to take this opportunity to outline the facts and the truth.
So I'm stopping it here because I have some other content that's going to say other things than what she's saying here. So it's important that we remember what she's outlining as what she says is the facts, and it's important to remember how she's describing. She's saying is reviewing her records on the matter. Is not the same way as saying how it's going to be discussed in some other segments. So just to make that clear, and so let's make sure we make note of some of the important points, those in the audience for us, because I know Chuck and I might forget in the discussion. So thanks.
Before I was sworn into office, I have endured relentless threats to my physical safety and life. As a rank and file member of Congress, I am not entitled to personal protection by the House, and instead have used campaign funds as permissible to
Chuck, let me ask you this, if you know.
Yeah.
So these reps are responsible for their own security? Is that what she's saying right here when she says we don't receive funds? Like, since you cover DC, do you know anything about?
I'll be honest, I don't know the law, and there's like part of me like that's like, you know what? When you start getting into this minutia, they're going to start getting into minutia that maybe like every congressperson does, but they're going to go after her because she's for a free Palestine. So there's like a part of me is like, you know, if someone does an illegal search, busts in your house, takes your drugs, I don't really want to talk about the drugs. I hear what you're saying, but I don't know the law, so I can't answer it on a legal level. I know why they're going after her, and they're going after her for the same reason everyone is signing these 90% of Congress signing these crazy resolutions. AIPAC wrote up to say anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. It's the same reason. That's why they're going after her, and we can never really take our eyes off that. That said, I don't know the law like that.
Absolutely.
To retain security services. I have not used any federal tax dollars for personal security services. Any reporting that I have used funds for personal security.
So she has not used any federal tax dollars. That's important to remember with the next video I'm going to show you guys.
Personal security is simply false. In recent months, right-wing organizations have lodged baseless complaints against me, peddling notions that I have misused campaign funds to pay for personal security services. That simply is not true. I have complied with all applicable laws and House rules, and will continue to prioritize the rules that govern us as federal elected officials. In particular, the nature of these allegations have been around my husband's role on the campaign. In accordance with all applicable rules, I retained my husband as part of my security team to provide security services because he has had extensive experience in this area and is able to provide the necessary services at or below fair market rate. These frivolous complaints have resulted in a number of investigations, some of which are still ongoing. The Federal Election Commission and the House Committee on Ethics are currently reviewing the matter, as is the Department of Justice. We are fully cooperating in all these pending investigations. In September of last year, 2023, after conducting a months-long investigation, the Office of Congressional Ethics.
So she's talking about a different thing because they're smearing her because they're trying to act like, oh, this is the second time. So she's mentioning that. We don't want to get into that part. So I'm going to take this particular video down now that we've replayed it to kind of refresh our minds about what she's saying. So let's get this story clear, because they're going to mention it several times throughout segments. And it's so it's when I came into the story, I'm hearing, wow, she hired her husband. That's kind of, why would she do that? That's a unforced error. Why would you hire your husband? Because I'm thinking, and most people who are listening are thinking, she's married as a nurse, then she gets elected, and then she hires her husband who has no background. That's not what happened. She had security detail, was single. In the security detail she meets one of the security officers and falls in love and marries that guy who is already in the business. To me, that changes, like, wait, it's still not necessarily advisable to even hire your husband, even with this story, because of the possibility of what it looks like. So you would sort of make a decision not to do this purely based on optics. Not because you know you're not doing anything wrong, but optics, people are gonna, I don't want to give. That will be the only reason, because I don't see if her husband, she met him in the capacity of protecting her. That doesn't. That's not as weird to me. What did you think about that detail?
I don't have a problem with it all. And let me make an analogy. I'm a sports guy, right? I want to make a sports analogy to the most incestuous sport there is, and that's NFL football, and where they call it the NFL Coaches Friends Network. You have family everywhere. Everyone's a son or a coach. Kyle Shanahan, his father, brother, sister. North Turner used to have 3 of his sons on staff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And when Lovie Smith, a black coach, was at Tampa Bay, I started seeing all of these stories that he hired his son as a secondary coach. And they're like, it was a big deal. And all these white people and all these white writers, because I'm going to say it like it is, all of a sudden started noticing nepotism when it's the most nepotistic like sport there is. Where you been? All these people been hiring the family.
Literally.
For years. Where you been?
Literally.
So for me, I'm like, I'm not going to worry about the optics. I'm going to explain to you your racist double standard. That's what I'm going to do. And we're going to talk about all the other Congress people. You want to open that door and talk about family members in Congress? I mean, a great example is JFK, RFK. Nobody was like, oh my God, his brother. Why would you have his brother? And do you know what the underlying assumption to that is? Because RFK is qualified, but he is not qualified to be security. That's the underlying assumption. That's racism right there. So I need to challenge your racism and see if you don't have a double standard with other people. So I ain't into the capitulating to the optics. If your optics are messed up, then I need to help adjust you the way you see and give you glasses. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and that's another reason I like to have you on. Because you're not an optics guy. You're not I don't give a damn what the optics is if this is it is. Yeah, so I like that. So let's get to this next clip, and this might be triggering, or it's going to be triggering. This is Jesse Waters. To me, he's one of the most triggering hosts on Fox, but this is his wheelhouse. He's a lot of his segments is about the squad. On every channel kind of has a person that does niche sort of things. And this guy is the culture warrior. He took the mantle of the replacing whoever else.
Tucker. He replaced Tucker. The reward for firing Tucker was Jesse Waters. That's
right.
The reward for firing Bill O'Reilly was Tucker. Y'all getting this?
Getting worse and worse. Worse and worse. All right, so let's listen to this. Let's see how much we can get through this. It's pretty bad.
Cori Bush for financial corruption. She allegedly took federal funds and then handed it to her boyfriend. She hired her boyfriend to be her security guard, even though he wasn't qualified or licensed. And then she married him.
That's the part I haven't found the detail to explain. Now, it's just because Jesse Waters could just be lying to his audience to say he's not credentialed and licensed because, again, she met him in the capacity where he was already working as a security person. You get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
That part, I don't know if his license lapsed or something, and Jesse
Yeah, but
Waters
did Jesse Waters have something to say about Jared Kushner in some past situation, making policy decisions about the world? I'm interested and curious because he's very interested about security level.
Yeah. What does that mean? It's because I'm hesitant.
Racism, man.
You just jumped there. I was just about to say.
That's all it is. It's all it is. So we got to expose them double standards.
To label so many things racist, because I don't want to diminish the quality of the word, but it's coming to the point where if this is what it is, what else can I say? And I'm trying to find another reason for you, Jesse, and for Fox News. I'm trying to find in your logic another reason. But I haven't found that yet. But go ahead if you're going to say something.
I want to share something with you personally. I never really share my personal life because personal is no one's business. But in this situation, it's just coming up because it applies. My wife is black, so let me just say this, and here's why I tell you this. We have this argument at home where I see some racist stuff, right? Like this, and I'll be like, that's racist, and I'll go into my diatribe, what you did, and she completely understands everything. She's right there with me, but she's stuck on, as a black person, you can't do that. Why do you think you're like white people and can get away with that? She's stuck there, right? Like the optics thing. Like, don't you know, as a black person, like if you do that, they're gonna come after you. You messed up there. Though she's 100% with me, right? And she agrees that it's completely racist, and she'll say that's an unforced error or whatever. But she'll believe both things at the same time. So I mean, and I sort of get that because it's like you're saying you want to do that, and we have those discussions back and forth. But at the end of the day, anyone, white anyway, it's still racist. And we have to call, because we want to change that dynamic that black people have to live by a separate standard. That's what we want to change. And you can only change that by fighting the optics. So anytime someone uses, so anytime someone uses the word optics, they're saying this is what it looks like to a lot of dumb people. And if it's racially based, dumb white people. That's what they're really saying. So we have to educate those people and inform those people about their double standard.
But that's sort of like what's happening separately in its different conversation about immigration, because Democrats and Republicans are saying, yeah, there's a crisis at the border, but they're not talking about the same thing, or at least I'm not. Let me distance myself from the Democrats, saying Democrats and Republicans, they're more similarly talking about the same thing. I'm talking about when we say it's a crisis, we're not saying the same thing that they're identifying, that we need to close off. I would say we need to increase the number of judges. We need to speed things up. We need to allow more, let the threshold come, that's my solution. So it's not exactly the same thing, but I digress. Let's listen to this video so we can get through it before you got to get out of here. Let's listen. And now he's speaking about how they met, and he just said that that her new husband has no credentials, basically.
Security guard, even though he wasn't qualified or licensed. And then she married him. So it looks like a lover's kickback. Fannie Willis, now Cori Bush, both accused of steering other people's money to the men they're sleeping with. Cori Bush put her lover on the payroll, married him, so the money goes into a joint checking account now. Oh, and she blamed Republicans for that.
I have not used any federal tax dollars for personal security services. In recent months, right-wing organizations have lodged baseless complaints against me. I retained my husband as part of my security team to provide security services because he has had extensive experience in this area and is able to provide the necessary services at or below fair market rate.
All right, Cori's husband didn't have a security license in her district or in D.C., and she funneled $100,000.
So now you see now you hear the truth come out right there. So earlier, the way he said it, he's not even licensed. And people listen, what? Just didn't a rogue person? No, it's like saying, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm a lawyer in California, but I'm not licensed in Texas. I am a lawyer. I'm just, you get what I'm saying? He's just saying he's not licensed, for whatever that even means, to have a particular license to do security in DC, he's not licensed. So that's the point that he's making here.
Ran to him. Fox confronted him last year. Watch.
What's your role in the campaign right
I don't
now?
have a role in the campaign, man.
So you're not doing any more work with the campaign, her campaign?
I'm not doing work with the campaign. Obviously, I am. I'm still employed, right?
Yeah, you're still a part of it?
Am I still
Now, this is not a good look, I must say.
I don't care though. I don't care.
I'm just saying, what to your point of what your wife always says. I'm playing that role right now. I'm playing your wife's role is that the reason, and you know this already. You already know why Black people have this sort of dual understanding. Is that you're absolutely right. That's under normal conditions when we're not living under a sort of an oppressive apartheid sort of two states, two system tier system. That's right. Now let's talk about how we need to go about this in reality. And that's where the two sort of things, and the reason we say is because don't give them an out to get you out, Cori Bush.
Here's my caveat.
Now, you see how
I'm my wife.
Now
I got
you
one
see,
caveat.
Now you see how they're able. She said what? Say that again.
My caveat. She'll tell me that privately in our home. Publicly, she'll be backing the person in the optic. You see what I'm saying? That's a little bit of a difference. She's telling me that privately vetting. How'd you make that error? That's so stupid. But if she were in a public forum, she wouldn't have that stance. She would have.
No. You back the person you're supposed to back still. But yes, you would go behind. You would say as a strategy.
Right.
Why you would not do this in public? Absolutely not. So if we didn't make that clear, no, that's not something. That's not a conversation you would absolutely not have in public, to where people don't know you're saying that, as a disagreement and strategy. But what I'm saying is that you see how it gives them an ability to go up to him now. You know how security is normally inconspicuous. I don't even know what the security person looks like. On even the president, I couldn't tell you, Chuck, what any of them look like at all. But because this is your husband and you have right-wing people who are hunting for you, now look, and this is not good for her own security.
Now look,
for her security's face to be on TV, that's not good for her own security even.
My response to that is Jared Kushner, Hunter Biden making policy for the entire country, and you're talking about practice? You're talking about security? Are you serious? We fight it back. We fight back.
You're talking about practice, man?
That's how I feel. That's what we fight it back. I ain't budging on this, CJ. I ain't budging. It's some racist shit.
That's a perfect analogy. That's why I'm laughing. You talking about practice, man? So, to your point, it's that. But the problem is, Chuck, the way that Jesse Waters is going after Cori Bush. There's nobody on the left that really does that towards Kushner. In corporate media, supposedly on the left. You get what I'm saying? So it's kind of uneven. But let's get back to the video so we can get through more of this. About a few minutes left here.
still employed with it?
Yeah.
Yes. So obviously I'm going to work with it.
I don't have a role in the campaign except I work for the campaign. Remember, he was hired for his brawn. Now, Bush hired a different bodyguard who Primetime doesn't believe she's sleeping with. He moonlights as her spiritual guru. He's an anti-Semitic wizard who goes by the name Aha. Aha claims to be 1 trillion years old, and he has a very special skill set.
I'm going to take you in the book of Proverbs and show you how to make lightning touch where you want it to.
Now, I'm going to stop here, and I wanted to make sure I played this point, Chuck, because this is why Jesse Waters is not a serious person, because I wanted everybody to hear what he says about Cori Bush, but then he inserts this. Now, this may play well to his, deranged audience, because all he's doing here by inserting a completely irrelevant person is to add on to the emotion of the story, because you don't have a lot of facts.
It's the
Yeah, you don't have
play.
a lot of facts. Exactly. You don't have a lot of facts, so you got to go, here's this flimsy facts. Now let me just add on a bunch of emotion to this, because the facts alone can't stand, and that's what he's doing here, is a propaganda tactic. But you know what, things like this, with things like what the Republicans are doing with immigration, it admits that they know this country is still racist. Why would this type of stuff land? Why would it be so scary that there's brown people who are coming up to a border because their country is in disarray? Why is that so scary unless you've been socialized a particular way? That's the point I wanted to make.
That's what Trump tapped into so brilliantly in a bad way, but that's what he tapped into, and he tapped into it, and he as good as anybody.
Absolutely. And let's get to a couple of more reaction while we got a few more minutes here. Here is Rep Troy. I think it's the way you said is Neas, Nehis, if you're listening, calls Cori Bush husband a thug. Now, understand, I'll say what I have to say after we play. Listen.
She doesn't even support the police. But the idea to pay her thug money to try to help protect her, this and that, for what? Maybe if she wouldn't be so loud all the time, maybe she wouldn't be getting threats.
Are you saying she deserves to be threatened?
No, what I'm saying is that when you're out there talking the way she does, I'm surprised that people are probably pretty upset, because she's a pretty radical. She's pretty radical. And maybe she should tone it down a little bit.
Do you think they're trying to scare her out of her advocacy for defund the police? And this is another reason I wanted to have you on, because not only it's coming from the right, but it's coming from the left about this critique and adding in defund the police. I'm going to play this before I get your reaction, because it's on the same subject. It's about defund the police. Both of these clips I'm paying you. Now listen to Cenk here.
In terms of the need for security, I get it. You know, look, we get crazy threats, et cetera, all the time. She's a member of Congress. She wants to feel safer. Okay. She's one of the leaders of the defund the police movement. Is there a little bit of irony there?
Yes.
Yes. So now look, guys, you can.
Now I'm going to let you answer. I don't get how this is even an irony. I don't get the connection they're making, and I'm going to explain my answer. But I'm curious to hear what you have to say about these last two clips and what they're saying. How somehow I've never heard a defund the police person say security is not needed. We just don't need racist police. Go ahead, Chuck.
No, I think you're right. First of all, let me do the first one, okay? That dude was itching to say the N-word. That's what I was getting at.
Yeah, oh, yes.
You know, tone it down. Her crime is speaking up. That's her crime. Her crime is not knowing her place. Her crime is not shutting up and taking the AIPAC money. That's not taking the police union money. That's their crime. So she's talking too much. And that is exactly why we have this investigation. And Adam Clayton Powell was taken down this way too, by the way. If you want to go back a few decades, they didn't like Adam Clayton Powell fighting. So they went into how he spent his money, which was messed up, by the way. But like everybody back in those days were spending money messed up. So that's the crime. And but I found the first one, I think the most important piece, and Cori Bush said something about it. I do believe that's almost putting her in greater danger. I do believe that. You already have all these lunatics giving her death threats, and when he says that, it up levels the danger. So I think it's more than he just said words. I think it's just far worse than that. When you start worrying about someone's safety who's already a black woman who's taking the most anti-establishment positions. That's number one. As for Cenk, and don't call Cenk, what do you call it? On the left again, because I don't know where he is. But
I just said progressive or something. Yeah,
progressive. I'm playing with you. I'm playing with you, CJ. Yeah. I mean, Cenk, isn't he the one who was going for the Republican guy in California? Yeah. So Cenk is, I don't know. But anyway, I do want to address his point, which is worth addressing. I think you already addressed it. If you understand defund the police, first of all, defund the police is not like no security, no protection. They're alternate forms of protection. And if you talk to different people in the movement, they may have different ways they talk about that. So I think on some like level, it's not understanding what defund the police is, not understanding that there are people they want to destroy the policing system and replace with different roles. But you're going to get that irony. It's not like nobody protects anyone. So I don't see a problem there anyway. And it ain't even an officer anyway. I don't see a problem with it. And I think you're going to hear a lot of it. And I mean, at the end of the day, Jesse Waters also, and this guy, they're Jesse Waters. One time Jesse Waters wanted a video of mine. I got a DM from his crew. I was like, hell no, I'm not letting you take any video and switch it up. I told no, thank you. No, because they would switch it up. They would like take one little clip and make her crazy. It was after the DNC protest. And, you know, they're masters at taking a clip and flipping that clip on its head.
Yeah. A reason what it's to bring up defund the police. I don't know if he's saying it. Both of these people are saying it because they truly don't understand defund the police, or they're truly trying to mislead people about defund the police. And maybe the answers are separate for each one. Maybe one's different than the other. Yeah. What do you mean when you say it's both?
Well, this is what I mean. When you're talking about right wingers, first of all, you're talking about a huge ignorant populace in the right wing, right? No question about it. I mean, just so ignorant from the TV they're getting. They're ingesting Fox News all day. They're ingesting Newsmax, whatever. But then you have the people at the top. They're actually very smart. And they're manipulating all of those people. And those people are manipulating. They all know they're saying BS. They all know they're trolls. They all know they're trying to hit that nerve within white America to inflame their maybe subdued bigotry. Those people are smart. They're doing it intentionally. But many people come on board and they naturally echo those things and they believe it because they see these other people in power saying it. So it's almost always
Absolutely. Both. Absolutely. All right. So it's actually lining up just perfectly. You got to get out of here in just a few minutes. We only have a couple of more segments, and we're going to be getting out of here too. So maybe another 35, 40 minutes in the entire show. But Chuck is going to be taking off. I can
stay till 3:10.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I got a note. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
I'm back till 3:15. I'm good. So I can stay till 3:10. Yeah.
All right. We'll continue. I was about to let you go. So we'll continue on with the show with a couple of more receipts here, and really just an article just so we can get more details. But what I wanted to say about this critique on defund the police with this, it came right out of left field for me. I'm listening to this story and I'm like, defund the police. I'm like, what? I don't even understand the connection that to even go, man, that was a good point. Like, ooh, mic drop for you. Because I don't even understand the connection that they're even trying to make. But just so people understand, defund the police is that the policing now we are against. How policing is now, how security is done, how protection is done now. Mean we want to defund the strategy of protection now. That doesn't mean we want no strategy of protection. That's not at all what that means. So why it made no sense to me is because, wait a minute, Cori Bush wants to defund the state apparatus, the state security apparatus that's not securing anybody.
Yeah.
He wants to defund that. That has nothing to do with her wanting security, especially from people like who you saw that rep on that steps. If he was a regular person, I would be fearful of that person if I was her. So she needs protection from maniacs who don't like her radical positions in a white supremacy country. So she needs security for that. That doesn't mean she needs state security, meaning police. So I know our audience, the majority of our audience understands this and gets this, but just for those that maybe listen to us, drive-by listeners, I hope that's clear, a clear sort of explanation of why this doesn't make sense. But anyway, let's get to some other receipts. I'm gonna let Jank finish out what he says in this clip, and then we have a couple of other articles just to kind of cover for this. Let's listen.
You could say full-blown irony, or you could say half irony, because yes, but she's worried that the police are abusing the citizens, and in her case, clearly she's hiring security to protect her. And if the cops acted like that, maybe she might be in favor of them.
Yeah.
But is there a sense of irony here? No protection for you, but protection for me. A little bit.
But you see how they dumbed down, defund the police?
Yeah.
No protection for you, but protection for me.
Though they always have dumbed down from the police. And I'm of the belief if like Democrats weren't bought off by police unions and fought it right, or media fought it right instead of running away. I like when someone would come out and be like, you're for defund schools, you're for defund community services, you're for defund hospitals. Let's talk about that and go on the offensive. Then we can have a real discussion about allocation, right? And instead of that, they ran away. The slogan, we can't win. And what we've learned since then, all those slogan people, right, who really were actually didn't care, all the slogan people, we've learned any combination of words that the right wing puts their mind to, they can weaponize. It could be Black Lives Matter, the most benign phrase of all time. Right. It could be about anti-fascist. It could be critical race theory is around for decades. They turned it into bad words. Now it's DEI. I'm against equity. Oh my God, equity. Equity's good. Equity's good. You know?
Woke.
If they want to attack,
they turn woke around. That's crazy. But go ahead.
Woke. So
that's
the
crazy.
idea that there's a bad slogan tells me you do not understand the nature of the right wing and their power. They can turn anything and any combination of words into an attack in any way. That's how I feel.
All right, let's read her statement. This is her official statement. Actually, let me back up so you can see. Or you can see on the right-hand side that this is officially from Cori Bush, where she says, my statement on campaign spending. And it's essentially the same thing. I'm not going to read it, one, because it's too small. And it's essentially the same thing in the video that we saw, where she read a couple of things. She summarized what she says here. That's basically what she does. So, but I just wanted people to know there is a statement you can go read. It's on her website. It's here. If you Google it, you would also see it. Now, we saw how corporate media corporate right-wing media covered it. Now let's hear how corporate, this is supposedly, I guess, the middle, isn't that? Yeah, CNN is supposedly in the middle and MSNBC is supposedly the left-leaning or liberal. So this is the centrist coverage of this, and let's listen.
We have breaking news that we want to get to. Democratic Congresswoman Cori Bush is speaking out after confirming that the Justice Department is reviewing her campaign spending on security services. She claims there is no wrongdoing on her behalf. She's being accused by some in Congress of misusing funds to pay for security inappropriately. She's being accused of essentially of hiring her husband. We're expecting that she's going to make some remarks. Let's listen in from Capitol Hill.
All right, so first and foremost, I hold myself, my campaign.
So I'm going to fast forward because this is the part we hear, but I did want you guys to hear the introduction. And then I want to hear what's said afterwards, and that's this part here, some of the reporting. So let's listen to the rest of the reporting. Oops. Let's go back a little bit more right here. All right, let's refresh. Yeah, happens on Twitter. Okay, now let's see if it plays. Right here. All right.
Cori Bush, Manu, she essentially just read the statement that her office had put out earlier, But in it, she claims that this is politics and that she is complying with the investigation that she believes will ultimately prove that she's done nothing wrong.
Yeah, and look, she's not answering questions about it, as you saw right there. As you're right, Boris, this is essentially word for word of exactly the statement that she just put out, reading that off of her phone, not answering any questions, and her aide saying she wouldn't take any questions either. The question, too, of course, she says she's cooperating. To what extent? Are they talking? Has she spoken to federal prosecutors? Has she actually agreed to come testify before a federal grand jury? And where exactly does this investigation stand? We do know that the House, that the Judiciary Committee has subpoenaed for documents regarding this investigation. That was, of course, announced on the House floor just yesterday. So what exactly does that mean pertaining to this investigation? She is trying to make the case that that she did not misuse taxpayer dollars and that this is about campaign funds that were used to retain her husband's security firm. I guess he has some security expertise, it appears, to retain his services in regards to threats that she had received. She said that he has expertise. She said that it was below market value. It saved money to go this route. But there are still a lot of questions about the nature of all of this. But as you can hear from the Congresswoman, she said she did nothing wrong, but not a lot of questions here, just not a lot of answers. Boris.
Yeah, we know you'll stay on top of the details of this investigation.
You notice how these anchors, these reporters, they pick and choose when they want to defend different people in media.
Oh, yeah.
Like if it's Hunter Biden and they were saying these things, he would turn to the audience. Now, GOP said this, and this about Hunter. None of that is true. And this is, you get what I'm saying? They pick and choose when they want to defend certain people. But let's get to the next receipt here, and that
there
is
was something
your.
cool, though, in there. I think they messed up. In one of the
Go
pictures,
ahead.
she's behind Rabbis for Ceasefire, and you could see the sign, Rabbis for Ceasefire. I was there that day when she was there with the rabbis. So I love that they probably missed that when that got in the clip.
Because
you talking about here somewhere?
No, in the previous clip.
Answers from.
Okay.
She was standing behind
all
a
right.
sign, Rabbis for Ceasefire. I mean, obviously, many people won't notice it, but I love that it got slipped in there.
I'm pretty sure on purpose, with all those cameras. But let's get to your tweet, and here we go. And we're going to cover a couple of people's tweets right now. Here's yours. It says, breaking Rep. Cori Bush is targeted for being loudest congressional voice for a free Palestine. I don't know if you had any subsequent tweets
No,
on
I
this,
saw it,
but
and I
it
just
seems
immediately
like
tweet that. That was like, boom.
Yeah.
Like, you know, sometimes you think about it, you're like, what are the words? And this was like, boom, right? And because this is what it's about. And we can't take our eyes off the prize. And on some level, I'm almost reluctant to dig in on this other stuff because I feel like I'm validating their racism, their anti-Palestinian position. It's always this struggle. Like you want to talk about it, but you don't want to validate their BS. So I think, yeah, it doesn't mean we can't have this discussion. But like now, we have to bring it back to why she's being targeted. She is being targeted because she's going against empire. She's being targeted because 13 people who originally had a resolution, now up to 66, with the great help of protesters in the street that opened that up. She's less lonely now. It's growing now. So, it's easy to siphon someone off at the beginning. And let me say something else that I think gets lost on a lot of people. The first 13 co-sponsors, and which I think grew to 19, a few added, if you look at them all, none of them are white. None of them are white. Now, we have to be clear that it's Black Congress people and Hispanic Congress people who were the first to say it, speak out. A few white people came in later. And I think that's an interesting position to say, to understand what is happening in Gaza is going to certainly resonate a little bit more if you're not white, colonization and the genocide, Jim Crow versus Israeli apartheid. So I think there's something to that which has barely been discussed, but now it's growing. So she is a threat. She is a threat.
Absolutely. And just this last comment here, this is from Mehdi Hassan. His tweet says Republicans denied it, but of course they're the same ones who claim the DOJ has been weaponized against the GOP. How does this fit with that? Also, don't get me going on Garland's DOJ after going after a House Dem over money, but not multiple House Republicans over a coup attempt. And the reason I wanted to show this one is that this is like, even in the advocacy for a position I think is right, which is you're advocating in on the side of Cori Bush in this instance, you have to throw in the red blue game. And this is one of the problems with the social democracy, why they have to have one foot in, one foot out. It's totally unneeded for you to insert the culture war stuff. Just advocate for Cori Bush on the stance of her being on the side of humanity and being right, and not have to, point out some, look what you guys did, because both sides do this. Both sides are fine and look the other way when their side are doing the same exact thing that they call out the other side for. So it's not new, and it's not, it's not anything to be, oh yeah, this is a new thing to do. Now,
it does make me wonder, though, if Biden is the president. It makes me wonder if he pulled some strings. I have no, no facts or anything, but it does make me wonder, because Cori Bush is an enemy to Biden. Like she can't go away soon enough for Joe Biden, whose poll numbers are going down. So she just doesn't have enemies on the right wing. She has enemies 90% of her own party.